It was just another quiet morning at a small roadside diner on the edge of town. The kind of place where regulars came in for coffee and pancakes, and strangers were rare. But on this day, something unusual was about to happen, something that would turn one waitress's simple act of kindness into a story the whole town would never forget. Rachel had been working at the diner for years. She wasn't rich, not by any means. She lived in a tiny apartment with peeling wallpaper and worked double shifts just to make ends meet. But despite her own struggles, Rachel had a warm heart. She believed in kindness, even when life didn't always return the favor. And every day she noticed a boy, quiet, thin, and always alone, sitting by the window with barely enough money to pay for toast and water. He never said much. His clothes were worn, his shoes barely held together, and his eyes looked tired in a way no child's eyes should. Rachel didn't know his name, and he never offered it, but she could see that he needed help. So, day after day, she started bringing him a full breakfast: eggs, bacon, toast, and juice. She'd write it off as a kitchen mistake or cover it with her own tips. The boy always looked surprised, sometimes even close to tears, but he never said a word, just nodded a soft thank you and quietly ate. It became a routine, one Rachel kept up for months. No one else really noticed. The diner was small, but people kept to themselves. To Rachel, it wasn't a big deal. She wasn't doing it for praise or attention. She just couldn't bear to see a child go hungry. But then one morning, everything changed. Just as the sun was coming up and Rachel was unlocking the diner doors, 4 sleek black SUVs pulled up and parked outside. They didn't belong to anyone from town. Their windows were tinted, and they looked completely out of place in this quiet, worn-down neighborhood. One by one, men in suits stepped out and scanned the diner as if they were looking for someone. A chill ran down Rachel's spine. She hadn't seen the boy in 2 days. She thought maybe he had just moved on or found someplace better. But now, as the strangers approached, her hands started to tremble. Something told her that the quiet boy she had been feeding wasn't just an ordinary child, and that her life was about to change in a way she could never have imagined. Rachel stood frozen behind the counter, watching through the diner window as the men in suits moved toward the entrance. Their steps were firm, precise, like they knew exactly where they were going and who they were there for. The door opened with a soft chime, and the lead man stepped inside. He scanned the empty booths, his sharp eyes landing on Rachel. "Morning," he said, his voice calm but heavy. "We're looking for someone. A boy, about 12, thin, wears a grey hoodie, comes here often." Rachel's heart skipped. She tried to stay calm, wiping her hands on her apron as if that would steady them. "Can't say I know who you're talking about," she replied, her voice a little too high-pitched. The man tilted his head slightly, not buying it. "We were told he comes here almost every morning. Alone, quiet kid. You might have served him." Rachel glanced toward the back of the diner, hoping someone would walk in, anyone who could make things feel normal again. But it was too early for customers. Just her, the humming fridge, and 4 men who clearly weren't just passing through. She didn't want to give anything away. She didn't know who these people were. Maybe they were family, but maybe they weren't. The boy never talked about his life, never said where he lived or if he had anyone looking after him. He was just there, like a ghost drifting in for warmth and food. One of the men pulled out a photo and slid it across the counter. It was the boy, same hoodie, same sad eyes. But in the picture, he looked cleaner, more well-kept. The background wasn't a poor neighborhood. It looked like a mansion or some kind of estate. Rachel stared at it a second too long before nodding slowly. "He came in sometimes. I haven't seen him in a few days, though." The man studied her. "If you see him again, call this number." He handed her a card with just a name and phone number printed in bold black ink. No company name, no title, just a name she didn't recognize. Rachel nodded again, slipping the card into her apron pocket. The men didn't order anything. They just turned and left as quietly as they came, the bell on the door jingling behind them. She stood there for a long time after the SUVs drove off. Her heart was racing. She had 1,000 questions and no answers. Who was that boy? Why were people in black suits searching for him? And why did something in her gut tell her he was in trouble? That evening, she found something under the booth where he always sat. A folded piece of paper with her name written on it. Just her first name, nothing else. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, not knowing what she was about to read. Rachel's hands shook as she unfolded the paper. The handwriting was small and careful, almost too neat for a boy his age. The note said, "Thank you for the food. You were the only kind one. If they come looking, don't tell them anything. It's not safe. No name. No explanation, just that." She sat down slowly in the empty booth, staring at the words. Her mind raced. What wasn't safe? Who were they? And why had a quiet, hungry boy suddenly become the center of something that felt dangerous? Later that day, Rachel decided to visit the corner store a few blocks down, hoping someone else had seen the boy recently. Mr. Darrell, the owner, was always keeping an eye on the neighborhood. He said he hadn't seen the kid for days, but mentioned something strange. Someone in a suit had been in earlier asking about a missing child. That same SUV had been parked down the street. Rachel thanked him, trying to keep her face calm, but inside her worry deepened. Back at her apartment, she pulled the card from her apron pocket again and stared at the name. J. Callister. The number underneath wasn't local. She thought about calling it, just to ask who the boy really was, but something held her back. The boy had trusted her. He had warned her. And that felt more important than any answers a stranger could give. That night, Rachel barely slept. She kept hearing the ding of the diner door in her head, kept seeing those dark SUVs outside. In her dreams, the boy was calling for help, but no sound came from his mouth. She woke in a cold sweat, heart pounding. The next morning, she arrived at the diner early again. As she turned the key in the lock, she noticed something strange. A small bundle wrapped in a gray hoodie left at the back entrance. Her breath caught. Inside the bundle was a plastic bag with a small notebook, some crumpled cash, and what looked like a photo. An old picture of the boy with a woman who looked like his mother. Behind them stood the same estate she'd seen in the photo the man in the suit showed her. Rachel flipped through the notebook. There were pages filled with drawings, maps, trees, and little symbols. In between were notes, written like journal entries. Don't trust the men in black coats. The house isn't safe. If I disappear, I'm not running, I'm hiding. Each line added to the mystery. What kind of life had this boy escaped from? Who were the men in suits really working for? Rachel didn't have the answers. But now, with the notebook in hand and the boy still missing, she knew one thing for sure. Whatever this was, it was far bigger than her diner, and it wasn't over yet. Rachel tucked the notebook into her coat and locked the diner door behind her, her eyes scanning the street. Every parked car, every flicker of movement made her flinch. The morning was gray and quiet, but it didn't feel peaceful. It felt like something was coming. She spent the afternoon going through the boy's notebook, piecing together what little she could. There were names scribbled in the margins, some crossed out, others underlined. One kept showing up, Callister, that was the name on the card. But here, next to it, the boy had written, not safe, pretends to help. Rachel's stomach dropped. If the men in suits were working for this Callister, then they hadn't come to protect the boy. They'd come to take him back. As the sun set, she noticed a car slowly creeping down the street in front of her apartment. It passed once. Then again, no headlights, no plates she recognized. She drew the curtain quickly and sat in the dark, heart racing. If they knew she had the notebook, they might come back, not to ask questions this time, but for something else. Later that evening, Rachel's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Asterisk, we know you've seen him. Don't do anything foolish. We just want the boy back. Asterisk, no signature, no voice, just that chilling message. She stared at the screen, frozen. They were watching her. She knew she had to do something, but what? The police might not believe her. The notebook was full of scribbles and drawings, not proof. And if these men were who she feared they were, wealthy, connected, then going to the authorities might put both her and the boy in more danger. Then came a knock. Not the doorbell, not loud, just a soft, steady knock at the back entrance. Rachel moved slowly, gripping her phone, unsure what she'd find. Her voice shook. Who is it? No answer. She hesitated, then peeked through the side window. A small figure stood just out of sight, back against the wall. She unlocked the door carefully, heart pounding in her chest. It was him. The boy looked pale, soaked from rain and exhausted, but he was there, alive. I didn't know where else to go, he whispered. Rachel pulled him inside without thinking, locking the door behind them. He handed her something, a flash drive wrapped in tape. They can't find this, he said. They'll do anything to get it back. Before she could ask what was on it, bright headlights cut through the kitchen window. Multiple cars. They'd found her. The boy's eyes widened. We have to go, now. Rachel grabbed her keys and her coat, stuffing the flash drive deep into her pocket. The boy was already at the back door, glancing out through the narrow gap in the curtain. They're getting out, he whispered. 2 of them, no 3. Rachel's thoughts raced. Her beat-up sedan was parked in the alley, but it was old and loud. There was no way to drive off without being noticed. Come on, she said, grabbing his hand. Fire escape. They climbed the back stairs, their footsteps quick but quiet. The metal creaked under their weight, but no one shouted or followed, yet. Once they reached the rooftop, Rachel looked around, hoping for an idea. The rooftops here connected, barely. If they could just make it across 2 more buildings, they could drop into the alley by the laundromat. From there, maybe they could disappear. But just as they reached the second rooftop, the boy stopped. Wait, he said, pulling her back. I need to tell you something, about the flash drive. Rachel turned, breathless. Now, they're right behind us. It's not just about me, he said, his voice low and serious. It has names, documents, proof. They're doing things, bad things, to kids. Experiments I wasn't supposed to escape. Rachel's heart dropped. Experiments? He nodded. At the house, the estate. They said it was a school. But it wasn't. We weren't allowed outside. We weren't allowed to ask questions. Some kids got sick. Some disappeared. A distant shout echoed up from the alley. Rachel pulled him toward the next rooftop. Her legs were shaking now, not just from fear, but from the weight of what he'd just told her. This wasn't just about a missing child. This was something far darker. They barely made it to the edge when Rachel heard a sudden buzz from her phone. Another text. Asterisk, you're making a mistake. Turn the boy over, and this ends quietly. Asterisk. But what made her freeze wasn't the message. It was the name attached. It was from someone in her contacts. Her sister. Rachel hadn't spoken to her sister, Emily, in almost 3 years. They'd grown apart, taken different paths. Emily had gone into private security work, something hush-hush and corporate. Rachel had no idea they were connected to this. She showed the screen to the boy, whose face paled. She worked there, he whispered. She ran it. The headlights below shifted. Footsteps pounded up the stairs they just climbed. They had seconds at most. The boy looked up at Rachel, eyes full of panic. If she finds us, we won't get another chance. Rachel's breath caught, her own sister, her blood. And now she had to choose, run from her or face her. Rachel gripped the boy's hand tighter as the rooftop door burst open behind them. She didn't look back, she just ran. The gap between buildings was small, but the fall wouldn't be. She turned to the boy. We jump on 3, she said, voice shaking. 1, 2. Before she said 3, A voice rang out from the rooftop behind them. "Rachel, stop." She froze. It was Emily. Rachel turned, chest heaving. Emily stood there in dark tactical gear, a gun at her side, and two suited men behind her. Her expression was unreadable, stern, but not cruel. "You don't know what you're doing," Emily said, stepping closer. "He's dangerous." Rachel shook her head. "He's a child. You were experimenting on kids, Em. What kind of place were you running?" Emily's jaw tensed. "It wasn't my decision. I kept them safe. Safer than they would have been outside." The boy stepped in front of Rachel, breathing hard. "She's lying. I saw what they did. They hurt people. I saw them test on kids younger than me. One girl didn't make it." Emily looked at him, then back at Rachel. "There's a lot you don't understand. That flash drive has information that can't get out. Governments were involved. If it leaks, people will die." Rachel's eyes burned. "So your answer is to hunt down children and silence them?" Emily's voice dropped. "If you run, they won't stop. Not until you both disappear. I can protect you, but you have to give me the drive." The boy shook his head. "She'll destroy it." Rachel stared at her sister, torn between blood and conscience. Then she made her choice. She pulled the flash drive from her coat and, with one motion, hurled it over the rooftop edge. Emily gasped and rushed forward, but it was too late. It clattered into the alley below. Rachel grabbed the boy's arm. "We go now." They made the jump. Emily didn't follow. By the time they reached the alley, the flash drive was gone. A hooded figure stepped from the shadows, holding it. He gave Rachel a small nod before walking away and vanishing into the night. She had no idea who he was, but somehow she knew the story would get out. Rachel and the boy disappeared too. New town, new names, quiet lives. But even months later, headlines started surfacing. Asterisk. Whistleblower leaks secret child facility files. Asterisk investigations began. Arrests were made. One name never appeared in the news: Emily Callister. Years later, a letter arrived at Rachel's new address. No return name. Inside was a photo: Emily, standing by the ocean, smiling sadly. And one line scribbled on the back. Asterisk, you were right, but I couldn't save them all. Asterisk, Rachel sat by the window of her small cottage in a quiet town where no one asked questions. The boy, now calling himself Noel, was upstairs finishing a school project. He laughed more these days, slowly shedding the shadows that once followed him. The nightmares hadn't completely stopped, but he slept through most nights, and that was something. The letter from Emily had been the last she ever heard from her sister. Rachel read it often, holding on to the final words not with bitterness, but with a strange kind of peace. Emily had been part of something dark, something powerful, but deep down she hadn't been lost. Maybe she couldn't save those children back then, but Rachel hoped she'd done something from the inside, something good before disappearing. Noah never asked about her. He seemed to know the danger was gone, at least for now. The flash drive had started a wave Rachel never expected. Reports leaked slowly at first, just enough to raise eyebrows. Then real investigations took hold. Whistleblowers came forward. High-profile figures were named, some even arrested. One by one, the truth began to surface. People were angry, shocked, but they couldn't look away. Still, no news story ever mentioned the boy who risked everything to escape, or the waitress who fed him eggs and toast, never asking for anything in return. And that was okay. Some stories didn't need headlines to matter. Rachel found work at a small cafe down the road. The owner didn't ask about her past, and she didn't offer it. Her new life was quiet, safe. She no longer jumped at every dark SUV or unknown number. And for the first time in a long while, she believed they were going to be okay. One evening, Noel came downstairs holding a piece of paper. "Can you read this?" he asked, handing it to her. It was a short essay he'd written for school, titled Asterisk, The Kindness of Strangers. Asterisk, it didn't mention his past. It didn't need to. It simply told the story of someone who'd helped when no one else would. A woman who gave him food and a reason to trust again. Rachel read it with a lump in her throat. "It's perfect," she whispered. Outside, the sun was setting, casting golden light through the trees. The world hadn't changed completely. Bad things still happened. But Rachel had learned something important. Sometimes, one small act of kindness can shift the course of someone's life. Maybe even the world. And for her, that would always be enough.